The show is starting. The finest in underground television.
Errantry. There was a merry messenger, a mariner, a passenger. He built a gilded gondola to wander in, and had in her a load of yellow oranges and porridge for his provender. He perfumed her with marjoram and cardamom and lavender. He called the winds of Argosies with cargoes in to carry him across the rivers 17 that lay between to tarry him. He wandered all in loneliness, where stonily and pebbles song, the running river Derrelin goes merrily forever on. He journeyed then through meadowland to shadowland that dreary lay, and under hill and over hill went roving still a weary way. He sat and sang a melody, his errantry a tarrying. He begged a pretty butterfly that fluttered by to marry him. She scorned him, and she scoffed at him. She laughed at him unpitying, so long he studied wizardry and sigildry and smithying. He wove a tissue airy thin to snare her in. To follow her he made him beetle leather wing and feather wing of swallow hair. He caught her in bewilderment, in filament of spider thread. He made her soft pavilions of lilies and a bridal bed of flowers and of thistledown to nestle down and rest her in silken webs of filmy white and silver light he dressed her in. He threaded gems in necklaces, but recklessly she squandered them, and fell to bitter quarreling. So, sorrowing, he wandered on, and there he left her, withering, as shivering he fled away. With windy weather following, on swallow wing he sped away. He passed the archipelagos where yellow grows the marigold, and countless silver fountains are, and mountains are of fairy gold. He set to war and foraying, a harrowing beyond the sea, and roaming over Belle Marie and Thelemy and Fantasy. He made a shield and morion of coral and of ivory. His sword he made of emerald, and terrible his rivalry with elven knights of Aerie and Faerie, with paladins who golden-haired and shining-eyed came riding by to challenge him. Of crystal his abergine, his standard was Chalcedony. Of silver tipped at plenilune, his spear was hewn of ebony. His javelins were malachite and stalactite. He brandished them and went to fight the dragonflies of paradise and vanquished them. He battled with the Dumbledores, the Hummerhorns and honeybees, and won the golden honeycomb. Then, running home on sunny seas in ship of leaves and gossamer with blossom for a canopy, he sat and sang and furnished up and burnished up his panoply. He tarried for a little while in little isles that lonely lay, but found naught there but blowing grass, and so at last the only way he took and turned, and coming home with honeycomb, to memory his message came, an errand too. In daring do and glamoury he had forgot them, journeying and tourneying a wanderer. So now he must depart again, and start again his gondola, for ever still a messenger, a passenger, a terrier, a roaming as a feather does, a weather-driven mariner.
Here before you is an opportunity to plumb the depths of the mysteries that confound and intrigue us. A chance to ask the big questions. Dr. Hal is not concerned with questions of trivial matters or of facts that are easily gathered elsewhere. Dr. Hal seeks the questions that transcend fact. He stands before you, ready to take questions that used to be brought to wise and aged sages on distant mountaintops. These questions can now be asked from the comfort of your living room. No Sherpas required. Simply direct your favorite web browser to our new and simple-to-use website, AskDrHalShow.com, or click the Ask Dr. Hal button below our live Twitch broadcast. You will be spirited away to the magical Ko-Fee portal, where all you need do is submit your burning question in the handy message field, and assign a monetary value you wish to place upon it. Our stage ghost will then convey your message live to Dr. Hal, and he will answer in the manner that only Dr. Hal can. Don't worry, we never sell, share, or solicit using your provided email address. PayPal will ensure that your valuable love offering goes directly to Dr. Hal. Links to submit questions and more can be found at our website, AskDrHalShow.com. Do not let this opportunity to consult a modern-day oracle, a seer for seers, a man steeped in the arts, sciences, and esoteric studies, pass you by. We present to you, through the very miracle of the internet itself, the one and only Dr. Hal Robins, now making house calls. Greetings, everybody.
It works.
And a top of the evening to you.
Indeed.
What?
I,
You know what's
you're
green and
giving
lays on.
away-
Oh, sorry, you first, Al.
I was just saying you're giving away the website address on the website, so they have to have the luck of the Irish to get there first. But perhaps that will be with them. What were you about to say?
You know what's green and lays on your lawn?
Tell me, please.
Patio furniture.
Ah, yes, that's right. I thought it was out in the back, but of course, who can say?
It's the
I was
only
wondering
Irish
what
joke I
sort
know.
of, that weird kind of pain in the back of my head was. It was a pun hanging in the air.
Right.
That was
it.
terrible.
That was
Yeah.
it. You could feel it coming. It's like a thunderstorm. When you get older, you'll be able to feel it in your bones.
So I understand we have some players assembled to ask their questions.
We do. As a
Indeed.
matter of fact, the queue is looking fine, but of course, audience, we can always use more questions. So there is never enough questions, and we will answer them all tonight. Make no bones about it.
Get your questions in now at AskDrHalShow.com. How did everybody like the cartoon today? Did we enjoy that? That was kind of lovely, wasn't it?
I did enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a good cartoon.
Yeah. Interesting fact about that was directed by Bill Teitla in 1949 for Famous Studios, which was what the remnants of Fleischer Studios became when it was acquired by Paramount. Teitla is actually best known as a Disney animator working alongside the Nine Old Men in the Golden Age. He was inducted as one of their Disney Legends in 1998. He worked primarily on features Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, all of those, where he was known as kind of like an animator that really specialized in the heavies. He was a guy that really did a lot of sort of muscular bad guys and things like that. He left Disney after the animators' strike in 1941, as did a lot of people, where he went to work at Terrytoons first, where he had actually started his career as a young man, and then on to Famous Studios again. He actually, interestingly, had worked at age 16 at Paramount Studios as a title card painter, where he earned the name Teitla the Titler. So yeah, that's a little factoid about our cartoon today. Thank you, folks.
Well, that is most interesting. Am I right in thinking that Teitla animated the character Stromboli in Pinocchio, the
You
one
are absolutely correct. Yes.
fire eater in the book? That's a wonderful piece of character animation.
Yeah, it certainly
Lee
is.
Fields, watching it, said he moves too much, but that was an out of the way criticism, I thought.
Interesting. Yeah. Very, very expressive animator.
Mhm.
Definitely sort of had a lot of emotion in his action. I thought that was
Yes,
interesting.
that's what you need. Animation is not just moving things around. The word indicates that you are bestowing an anima, a soul. That is to say, you are creating life if you do it correctly.
Yes.
What's actually
I've-
been kind of cool is doing some of the editing on these things and going through these things frame by frame. You can see the work of the masters on this stuff, and it's just breathtaking. It's a little bit of knowledge and animation just goes a long way for appreciation of this stuff. It's fabulous.
Yeah,
It's good that we
absolutely.
still have it to enjoy.
Mhm.
To
For
you.
now.
Yes.
But speaking of questions, we do have some in the queue.
All right.
Dr. Hal, if you are prepared, we are ready to begin asking the ask. So,
Well, if the best way to see if I'm prepared is to ask me one, I suppose.
well, let's do that. Professor Gofflin will bring you back shortly, but it's
Sounds
always
good.
good to have you on the screen with us.
Yes, very.
Thank
So
you.
now I'm going to warn everybody that I had to replace the iPad that I use for controls of everything, and the software that I paid for, that was actually beautiful, is no longer available. You can't get it anymore. So I had to try another package, which is not as nice.
Isn't that the way?
Mm.
So I am aiming for a glitchless show, but we'll see how that goes.
We
As
always do.
always.
Yes. If thy iPad offend thee, pluck it out.
Yes. Yeah. Oh boy, can I tell you stories? Anyway, Professor Gofflin, we'll talk to you in a little bit. Well, let's see, Dr. Howe. I have a question here from our good friend Young Chawanosaurus.
Oh, great. That's Frater,
And
young Tyrannosaurus, is it not?
yes.
Yes.
And
the
well, it is a $13 question. And
good.
it is, let me open it up here. Which Lovecraftian city would be a nice place to settle down and raise the kids? Irem seems to be nice this time of year.
Well, Irem, of course, would be all right, except for the fact that it is in the empty quarter, and therefore very hard to get out of or get in from anywhere else. But anyone who is living there, no doubt, has been able to deal with those problems, because there are always such ways to deal with them. Others might stipulate that Innsmouth was an okay place. The fish people who used to live there tolerated ordinary humans, and H.P. Lovecraft himself took a bus there. However, as readers know, he was pursued by grotesque hordes of fishmen when he left the place, who he described as hopping and flopping after him in a grotesque saraband of fantastic nightmare. That's a very picturesque expression, because a saraband is the ancient dance which is distinguished by a hop or a little jump. And other Lovecraftian cities are too remote in time and space to be accessible except as haunted ruins. Of course, close readers of Mr. Lovecraft know that the FBI came in and wiped out all the fish people on the unofficial level. There was a great purge, but who is to say that they do not still haunt the region, particularly the reef that is oft offshore ever since in the 19th century. Captain Obed Marsh married a fish woman and came back and began to populate Innsmouth with its shadow-haunted legions. But thank you for such a question. And I believe $13 is over the limit, and so I will say a poem. In this case, it's a poem by Lewis Carroll, who anticipated the concretist movement, where poems are shaped like certain objects. In this case, the poem, A Mouse's Tail, is shaped like the tail of a mouse, dwindling from a thick part to a point through a series of sinuous bends. Fury said to a mouse that he met in the house, "Let us both have a trial. I will prosecute you. Come, I'll take no denial. Yes, we must have a trial, for truly this morning I've nothing to do." Said the mouse to the cur, "Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge would be wasting our breath. I'll be judge, I'll be jury," said cunning old Fury. "I'll try the whole cause and condemn you to death."
So far, so good. Everything's
Yes,
working.
except I should have said, "Let us both go to law. I shall prosecute you." But there you go.
Uh,
Most of it came through.
It sounded wonderful from here. But I have another question for you. This is oh my goodness, Kofi, hold on a minute. This is a $20 question, and it is from Weird Christmas.
All right. Christmas in March is fine, like Christmas in July.
Christmas on St. Patty's Day.
Yes.
Dr. Hal, I am a lapsed subgenius returning after some 25 years of a stable and munificent wage life. I forked over a new membership to Stang, Natch at the criminally increased prices. Well done, by the way. May I please have a poem to accompany my return? Pre-20th century.
Certainly. And of course, the Church of the Subgenius is like the Masons or the Illuminati or the Communist Party. Once you're a member, you can't really leave it. Since, after all, it is not an organization for joiners, but an organization for people who already are subgeniuses. And those are the only ones we want. And we have to find out who you are. But a subgenius will always do as you have done and apply for the membership packet, even though it is no longer possible to get in on the ground floor with the earlier price. Still, congratulations and welcome back to the fold. In my craft or sullen art, exercised in the still night, while only the moon rages, and the lovers lie abed, holding their griefs in their arms, I labor by singing light. Not for ambition, or for bread, or for the strut and trade of charms on the ivory stages, but for the common wages of their most secret heart. Not for the proud man, apart from the raging moon, I write on these spindrift pages, nor for the towering dead with their nightingales and psalms, but for the lovers, their arms round the griefs of the ages, who pay no praise, nor wages, nor heed my craft or art. Dylan Thomas.
Now I have a $15 question from our good friend Dr. Billy.
Oh, that's fine.
It is, has Dr. Padal or his colleagues made any new breakthroughs in the science of lost and or mismatched footwear?
Well, Dr. Perditius Padal is on a hiatus on a sabbatical. His publisher is not able to find him, but let us trust that he will, since he penetrated so far into hosieristics, the science of lost and mismatched socks. And according to the transmission that he sent from space, traveling in a giant sock, he actually achieved and landed on the planet of lost socks, a planet which is actually composed entirely of socks that have been lost from Earth and other worlds, and is populated by life forms all on a sock basis, as illustrated in my book, still available online. Of course, it's available since it was an utter failure, but people who have read it profess to like it. Lucifer by Starlight by George Meredith. One starlit night Prince Lucifer arose, tired of his dark dominions, swung the fiend above the rolling ball in cloud part screened, where sinners hugged their spectre of repose. Poor prey for his hot fit of pride were those. Now on his western wing he leans, now his huge bulk o'er Afric's sands careens, now the black planet shadowed Arctic snows, soaring through higher zones that pricked his scars with memory of the old revolt from awe. He reached a middle height, and at the stars, which are the brain of heaven, he paused and sank. Around him, before him lay rank on rank, the army of unalterable law.
Beautiful.
Yes, you see, Satan, earthbound, and can't get to the other planets. The angel guard keeps him from trying.
Poor Satan.
But he does try.
Poor Satan.
Yes.
You got to root for the underdog.
There's a new movie coming out. I saw on YouTube. It's called, I think, Late Night with the Devil, about a late night talk show where Satan gets on and has some fun. It looks good.
I think we've seen the devil get on some of the late night talk shows, but we won't get into any of that right now.
Well, he might make a good talk show host, But anyway, let's continue.
Well, actually, I think now might be a good time to let the queue build up a little bit, and but we do have our first monster movie moment. But audience, now is the time to get those questions into Dr. Hal. This is an opportunity for that wisdom that we sometimes need to grease the wheels to get that wisdom. It's a lot easier than the painful ways that we can get wisdom, the way that the old-fashioned way. But
which we call extraction.
But with that said, we have our first monster movie moment, so let me go ahead and find it here on the screen and coming right at you. We're back.
Sic transit gloria monstrum. It always seems in these movies that you kind of are rooting for the monsters, and then they are killed in the end, and the music swells, and often you see the lovers rushing together, but not in this case.
No, but they'll all be back.
Well, all except Dr. Niemann, whose skeleton is found in the next movie, but the Frankenstein monster cannot be destroyed. Or like in the end of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, when the Redosaurus, who is in agony, crawls around and around like a dog trying to lie down in front of the fire, and then rears up on its hind legs in front of the burning roller coaster and gives one final croaking, grating cry, and you're really in sympathy with it, but instead the music swells to warmth and the lovers run together and they're kissing and so forth. Well, to hell with them, you just destroyed the only Redosaurus on Earth. And the daughter of the director, when she saw the movie, the little daughter said, "You were bad, Daddy. You killed a nice monster." That's kind of the way I feel. Anyway, perhaps we should go on.
Perhaps killing monsters is an aphrodisiac.
Well, it reassures the bulk of the audience that normalcy will be restored, if not enforced. What do you think, Professor Gofflin?
Oh,
no
no audio.
Are muted, unfortunately. Muted.
It's my turn to not be.
Sorry.
I pulled the pressure. I was just saying, I think my sympathy with the monsters might have been an early sign of my subgenius nature.
Subgeniuses definitely do, sympathize with the monsters across the board. That is a trait that we have.
That's because
my favorite's still oh, sorry. I think my favorite's still the creature from the Black Lagoon. He's
yes,
early heartthrob.
A tragic figure, and created by a woman, although Westmore, the head of the makeup department, squashed her credit and took all the credit for himself.
I met the man who wore that suit at a monster convention, and he was...
Yes, he passed just recently, I believe.
A couple of years ago, I think, yeah.
He was in good shape. He was a good swimmer.
He was an interesting person. And wearing that suit must have been something, especially underwater.
It doesn't look as if the suit would breathe much, like being confined in a plastic sleeve while you perform heavy exertions.
And some of those scenes underwater with that suit are powerful swimming.
Well, the suit is hydrodynamic, as it should be, making swimming easier. And the whole Megillah was in 3D also.
Well, with that, Dr. Hal, we have more questions. So, Professor Gofflin, we'll bring you back shortly, but let's go ahead and get a couple more questions in. Here we are. Well, so far, the buttons are all working. I'm impressed.
Excellent. Very good.
Let me see. I have here a $3 question, and it is from someone.
All right.
And it is...
need to disclose one's identity here.
Well, that may be a subgenius name. It's not quite anonymous.
Would be. Is it Reverend someone?
No.
Well, let's see about the question.
Is a basilisk a giant snake or a giant chicken?
It's curious that you should ask, because some have depicted the basilisk, if you're familiar with the medieval sources, as a snake with rooster attributes, or as a rooster with snake attributes. But the basilisk is a species of dragon and should be properly considered a snake, although it is a snake with a foot in the chicken department, one that is hatched by a rooster. Sometimes roosters go haywire, and they attempt to brood upon eggs and even lay a sort of egg, which is, of course, infertile. Or is it? According to the tradition, a basilisk is hatched from this, a serpent of such venomousness that if it bites your footprint after you have passed, you will die from the severity of the venom. Also, its gaze can turn you into stone, like a lot of pesky mythological creatures. We are better off without their widespread distribution. It was thought until extremely recently that one old, silly, foolish, hillbilly superstition was that snakes put their tails in their mouths and rolled down hills to get away. This was indulgently poo-pooed by many scientists until just this year. Snakes were observed putting their tails in their mouths and rolling downhill, not in a wheel-like formation, but with their coil now a flopping thing that takes them downhill with great rapidity. So science has always something to learn. Thank you for your question.
Let me see. What should we do next? I have a bit of an odd question here. And I'm not quite
Well, we get
sure.
to it.
Yeah, and I think whoever did this may have been soberly challenged when this
Oh, well.
was written. So I'm going to do my best to read it, but it's a
Yes, read it exactly as written. I hope that the grammar will be good enough for me to be able to answer.
let me see here. It is the person's name is Dismal.
What is the matter with it?
Well, it's the person's name, Dismal.
Oh, the person's name
Yes,
is
the
Dismal.
person's name is
all right.
Dismal.
Yes, is it the Reverend Dismal? I wonder. Anyway, the
no
question.
reverend attached. And
But we will do him reverence anyway.
yeah, it's is Philo related to that Wilcox gay ERM recording thing? You know, the ha, thank you so much.
The ha,
Oh,
say?
there's a little bit more. Sorry to not just investigate it first, but I feel burning appreciation.
Well, that's good. I guess, if you take a little bit more time to prepare your question, then it is easier to give it an answer. And as it is, I feel we can give this a cursory answer. What is it?
I should mention the question is for $103.
Oh, well, that makes a great deal of difference.
It's a brilliant question.
All right, let's go into this matter more thoroughly. Wilcox gay is not a homophobic epithet, as some might think. It was the name of a home recording corporation, as they called themselves. It used to be that there were things called record stores, where they sold vinyl discs, which being put upon an apparatus would yield music when played. And in these record stores was a booth where a person could go and record a record on his or her own, a 78 record. All the recording equipment was there. This was the Wilcox Gay Corporation, the Wilcox Gay Home Recording Corporation. It was founded in 1919, I think. No, it was founded in 1910, but it didn't last after 1962. They moved to Chicago in their last years of corporate existence, but were unable to survive farther than that. But Stephen Wilcox, and there I betray his subgenius name, we know him as Dr. Philo Drummond, is only distantly related to this other Wilcox. Of course, we are all related, being the sons and daughters of the Lord Adam and Lady Eve, and we come up through the evolutionary stairway. But there is a record of the Wilcox family, and as it happens, Philo Drummond's family is a branch of the Wilcoxes who were present in the New World, as it then was, in the 17th century. And the ancestral Wilcox, Stephen Wilcox, spelled the same way, was an associate of Roger Williams, who founded Providence, Rhode Island plantations, a name that state has always had, but will soon lose since the word plantations turns out to be irritating or challenging to a subgroup of people who have registered their objection. Let me see. Here is a poem. It is, of course, St. Patrick's Day, and so I will give The Fairies by William Allingham. Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, we dare not go a-hunting for fear of little men. wee folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and white owl feather. Down along the rocky shore, some make their home. They live on crispy pancakes of yellow tide foam. Some in the reeds of the black mountain lake, with frogs for their watchdogs, all night awake. High on the hillside, their old king sits. He's grown so old and grey, he's nigh lost his wits. With a bridge of white mist columbkill he crosses on his stately journeys from Slave Leg to Ross's, or going up with music on cold, starry nights to sup with the queen of the gay northern lights. They stole little Bridget these 7 years long. When she came down again, her friends were all gone. They took her lightly back between the night and morrow. They thought that she was fast asleep, but she was dead with sorrow. They have kept her ever since, deep within the lakes, on a bed of flagged leaves, watching till she wakes. Up the rocky hillside, through the mountains bare, they have planted thorn trees for pleasure here and there. Is any man so daring as dig one up in spite? He shall find the thornies set in his bed at night. Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, we dare not go a-hunting for fear of little men, wee folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and white owl feather.
Well, that was fun.
Yes.
I have a $15 question from our very good friend Dr. Penny.
Oh, great.
And it is there a special secret to obtaining a leprechaun's gold? And what is that secret? And I should mention too, Hal, that is a $15 question.
Well, the gold is supposed to be where the end of the rainbow touches the ground. And I've been at Burning Man where the end of the rainbow touched the ground, and sure, a bunch of people went galumphing off across the muddy plain to get there, but I don't believe they found a leprechaun. Of course, they must have sounded like a herd of elephants getting there. One must move with some subtlety. To catch a leprechaun, you have to be as subtle as a leprechaun, which is hard, and as witty as a leprechaun, which is even harder. But the main trick, as I understand it, according to all the stories, is that once you have caught him, don't be tricked into letting him go for even an instant, for an adjustment, for anything which might let him go, because then he'll be gone. And persisting too strongly can cause ills in proportion to the benefits of luck, we subgeniuses would say, slack, which would normally accrue. This bread I break was once the oat, this wine upon a foreign tree plunged in its fruit. Wine in the day and man at night laid the crops low, broke the bread's joy. Once in this wine the summer blood knocked in the flesh that decked the vine. Once in this bread the oat was merry in the wind. Man broke the sun, pulled the wind down. This flesh you break, this blood you let makes desolation in the vein. Were oat and grape born of the sensual blood and sap. My wine you drink, my bread you snap. Dylan Thomas.
Beautiful. Hal. Well, we have a guest this month. Michael Peppe of all sub geniuses. This is wonderful. But
Yes.
this was a performance that he did a number of years ago in San Francisco, and we have it here tonight, and we are proud to show it. So, audience, now is a good time to get your questions in. Got plenty of time. We have lots of room in the queue, and Dr. Hal can always use a love offering. So,
That's for sure. I believe this footage was forwarded to us by our friend Scott Beale at Laughing Squid.
indeed. So, here it comes. But audience, go ahead and get those questions in, and hope you enjoy this little bit of Michael Peppe.
Wow. What a performance. That's amazing.
Yes, that was at the SF Artists Institute, now extinct, by Michael Peppe, who is fortunately not extinct. Did you notice that during the gestural part of his performance, he referenced the stop motion animation of Jim Danforth as he began the Lucy show with the little walking figure of Lucille Ball, which used to open each episode, as he
That's funny.
also sang the music or hummed the music. Well, we have more from Michael Peppe, and in future shows, we hope to feature him.
Yes,
Certainly.
indeed.
And if you happen to be in our audience, Michael Peppe, and I have reason to believe you are, please feel free to join us in the after show chat this evening. We would love to see you.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
He was here last month, too, visiting us. It was very good to see him.
It was, yes.
I think.
Very good.
Did he actually show himself, or did he just, what was his voice there? Anyway, I hope he does show up.
I remember seeing him,
Oh, all right. Well, then he was.
but that's me. I could have been hallucinating. It's
Maybe.
possible.
We'll see.
Hard to say. But Professor Gofflin, we're going to go ahead and do some questions. So pretty soon we're going to be pulling you in to do some of these questions with us.
Ah, yes,
Oh,
that's right.
good. That's
Very
wonderful.
soon.
Always good to get some help. Well,
We're grooming you.
Careful now.
look at it that way. Let's see what's in the hopper.
Okay, very good. We'll see you in a bit, Prof. Okay, there we are. Oh, who do we have here? We have, let me grab the right mouse here, Reverend Brandon Oblivion sent this $15 question in, and it is, considering the moon is made of cheese, what sandwich should it be tasted on?
Well, cheese is a remarkable invention. It was invented by some prehistoric person, usually thought to be a prehistoric man, but who knows? Perhaps it was a woman. The discovery came by carrying some milk in a sheep's stomach, which was being used as a portable portation device. And as we know, rennet in that stomach changed the milk into cheese. And it is not so well known that even today, a sheep's stomach has a lot to do with the process. But the moon is said to be made of green cheese. This could be metaphorical, or it could be that the surface of the moon actually is edible, though probably not by any being from Earth. But the moon, the more we study it, yields more and more remarkable properties, assuming that its regolith could be adapted into an edible form of cheese for earthly consumption. It would ideally go pretty simply with a good piece of bread or a cracker, a piece of bread which might have to be harder and chewier than the regolith itself. This is all speculative, of course, but it's unwise to load up cheese-related delicacies with too many objects. The strong flavor of the cheese tends to fight them, and you lose part of the pleasure of tasting this interplanetary delicacy itself. How much did you say was contributed this time, Pressure?
That was a $15 question, I do believe.
Jim, who ran away from his nurse and was eaten by a lion. There was a boy whose name was Jim. His friends were very good to him. They gave him tea and cakes and jam and slices of delicious ham and chocolates with pink inside and little tricycles to ride. They read him stories through and through and even took him to the zoo. But there it was, the dreadful fate befell him, which I now relate. You know, or at least you ought to know, for I have often told you so, that children never are allowed to leave their nurses in a crowd. Now, this was Jim's especial foible. He ran away when he was able, and on this inauspicious day, he slipped his hand and ran away. He hadn't got a yard when, bang, with open jaws, a lion sprang and hungrily began to eat the boy, beginning with his feet. Now, just imagine how it feels when first your toes, and then your heels, and then by gradual degrees, your shins and ankles, calves and knees are slowly eaten bit by bit. No wonder Jim detested it. No wonder that he shouted, "Hi!" The honest keeper heard his cry. Though very fat, he almost ran to help the little gentleman. "Ponto!" he ordered as he came, since Ponto was the lion's name. "Ponto!" he shouted with a frown. "Drop it! Let go, sir! Set it down!" The lion made a sudden stop and let the dainty morsel drop and slunk, reluctant, to his cage, snarling in disappointed rage. But when he bent him over Jim, the honest keeper's eyes grew dim. The lion having reached his head, the miserable boy was dead. When nurse informed his parents, they were more concerned than I can say. His mother, as she dried her eyes, said, "Well, this comes as no surprise. He would not do as he was told." His father, who was self-controlled, bade all the children round attend to James's miserable end, and always keep a hold of nurse for fear of catching something worse. Hilaire Belloc.
I have a $3 question here, Dr. Hal, and this is from Miss Borealis.
All right.
And the question,
Aurora, in other words.
The question is, why am I, and can anything be done about it?
Well, you are because of a long succession of events set in motion at the beginning of time by the cosmic watchmaker who wound up the mainspring as tight as it could get. And from there, by a logical and inevitable succession, each action occurred down to the quantum submolecular level to bring you into being. But today, science teaches us that there is not one story, but like the ever-branching tree of evolution itself, and also on the quantum level, there are infinite possibilities. And in many of these, you may also be. But aside from that, one must inevitably conclude that there are many such sub-universes, pocket universes, or universes to which we are pocket universes, in which you never existed at all. There's something to be said for being in the right place at the right time. And here we thank you for your question.
I have a $6 question from our friend Reverend Dr. Big John. And
Very good.
This is an interesting question. Shatner?
Well, William Shatner is one who, like Leslie Nielsen, has made a career recently out of being a jokey form of his early appearances. But it is good to remember that at the time when they were performed, they were dramatic and of great interest. He did a piece where he was a prosecutor, I believe, in the Andersonville trial, the trial of the commandant of the notorious Southern prison camp, depicted in the famous book by Maxwell Anderson, which I'm trying to remember the name of. Andersonville, of course. And he can be seen in certain episodes of Kung Fu as an evil white person affronting David Carradine, who is supposed to represent a good Asian person. Beyond that, Shatner's appearances in The Twilight Zone are all classics, particularly the famous one, which has been frequently redone by more recent directors and presenters, of the nervous about flying passenger who is the only one who can see a mischievous and destructive gremlin on the wing of the aircraft. About that, there are layers of lore and story which could be gotten into. But even if one is willing to laugh with Shatner today, one should not bring that readiness to make fun into viewing his earlier performances. In Star Trek, however, the rest of the cast may have felt he was aggrandizing all the attention. He did an excellent performance. And at the time, the lead actor in a show was encouraged to think of that show as his show. If you were Mannix, then Mannix was your show. But of course, the other members of the cast, the ensemble, felt that he was gobbling up attention that they also deserved, and unnecessarily. These things do occur in the theatrical world. I do not shun performances by William Shatner, but in every case, one needs to keep a certain historical relativism in mind, just so the enjoyment can be all the greater. And I didn't even mention T.J. Hooker, but I wouldn't have. So where are we now?
Well, we're getting ready to go into our next monster movie moment.
Ah, yes.
This is we're usually showing older movies, but this time around, and it being St. Patty's Day, we wanted to do something a little different this time around. So perhaps this is the start of something new. But in any event, this is a movie. By the way, everything we show here comes highly recommended. These are great pieces of art, and whether old or whether new, they're all worth watching, and we want to bring them to your attention, which is why we show them here. So.
And this is an Irish monster movie, is it not?
Imagine, yes, it is. Yes,
How
it is.
appropriate.
And alcohol is involved.
Well, yes.
So, in that, with that being said, let's go ahead and go to our next monster movie moment. Audience, get those questions in. We have plenty of time. We can answer them all. Well, Dr. Hal can. I say the royal we, that other we. So here's the monster movie moment.
To find out what happens next, you can actually watch this movie for free online, but I like it very much, and I actually have a copy of it, which is also worth doing. If you're interested in collecting things so that suddenly they're all unavailable except in the cloud where you have to pay for each one.
It is a fun monster movie. It's just a hoot. Well acted, well done. You know, and you know, a monster movie from Ireland. It's good stuff.
Well, Ireland actually is now a happening place where the younger people are in control, and it is no longer under the gloomy scepter and orb of Mother Church as it had been for so many years.
Professor Gofflin, have you considered Ireland?
I have. Actually, there's substantial animation subsidies in Ireland, so.
Well, they did a good job with that movie. There are many scenes of the creatures where, despite their completely unearthly appearance, they display irritation and distress when confronted with alcoholics.
Well, you know,
in one scene they grab the hero with their tentacles, and then when he pours some hard liquor into their mouth, they just can't deal with it, and they put him back where they got him.
I know how they feel. Well, in any event, we have more questions. Professor Gofflin, did you have anything you wanted to add to any of this?
No, just that it's a great movie. Highly recommend. Go out and get it. Get a copy. Yeah.
It's magical.
Don't let the cloud hold your files hostage.
Yeah.
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 It's a thought.
Damn the cloud. All right. Professor Gofflin, we'll talk to you in a little bit, but we're going to get back to some questions. And I do have one coming up from our good friend, Reverend Xenofact. And
great.
It is a $15 question. And that question is, in the theaters, King Kong is teaming up with Godzilla. But what of cryptids like Bigfoot and Mothman? If you could craft a script where great cryptids team up, what would you choose and why?
Well, that's a most interesting question, Reverend Xenofact. I personally believe, as did H.G. Wells, that the best way to make your scenario plausible is for all of it to be as normal, uneventful, and believable as possible, with the one exception of the anomalous thing which is introduced. Then you tend to believe in the unreal as much as you believe in the real. But recent movies have special effects budgets, and crowds are anxious to see marvels. And so today, movies seem to pile one razzmatazz effect on top of another, thus sadly weakening the entire presentation. Just as when you go to the movies, if I might say as an aside, you see so many jarring special effects in Coca-Cola commercials and other aggressive merchandising that by the time the movie itself begins, you feel somewhat exhausted and out of sorts. Well, all this being said, you mentioned the monsters teaming up, and that could be the basis of the movie. So Mothman and Bigfoot would be just buddies in this scene, and they would match up with all the anomalous cryptids represented, let's just say, in the U.S., so we leave out the Loch Ness Monster and other things, the famous sea monsters that are out there. Every state has its monster. Like, for example, Ohio has the Loveland frog men and the giant snapping turtle, old Sequoia. And there are lake monsters. There are all sorts of things. I would say that as far as these monsters themselves go, there are people who live in out-of-the-way places, remote communities like Nevada City, which I recently visited, or the people who live in Gerlach, Nevada, way out in the Indian reservation in the desert. The reason they live there is they choose to live there, and they choose to live there because they don't like all of the excitement, hugger-mugger, and hurly-burly of so-called civilization. They don't want to be bothered, and surely monsters that are difficult to find know that this is the best for them, and they, too, don't wish to come in to the circle of the firelight. But for the purposes of fiction, we can have a monster rally, and if this is done correctly, it can be very entertaining. After all, we showed an excerpt from House of Frankenstein, which has a mad scientist, a hunchback, Dracula, the Wolfman, and the Frankenstein monster all together. A success which was repeated in the following Frankenstein movie, House of Dracula, and certainly in the final one, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Let them come together, but now we are dangerously intruding on the realm of the superhero movie and setting up a society of monsters. The Legion of Super Monsters, that would be a boring approach. In Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, you do get a little bit of a window into the monster conspiracy against the humans, which Bela Lugosi's Dracula is helming. And you also have that character, the Wolfman, who you saw tonight. His problem was he always thought of himself as a human and not as one of the monsters. If he could have just made that particular switch, his psychological profile would be less disturbed.
I have a $25 question from our friend AgraJag.
Oh, great.
And the question is, if this isn't nice, what is?
Well, what is nice is receiving the same benefits which it may be ideally assumed you are getting here, but by yourself in solitude. And this is not only practical, but practicable, since there are many sources. However, it is up to you to find them, to seek them out, and then you will never have a boring moment. Many correspondents on the internet complain to be bored, but being bored is a waste of time because it's boring after all. And some elements of interest are not boring, but are decidedly unpleasant. Therefore, it is best that you choose your own form of entertainment, which is based on your own predilections. And there you can go farther into the most interesting subject of all, yourself. Here is a poem by the former poet laureate of the United States, Richard Wilbur. Still, citizen sparrow, this vulture which you call unnatural, let him but lumber again to air over the rotten office. Let him bear the carrion ballast up, and at the tall tip of the sky lie cruising. Then you'll see that no more beautiful bird is in heaven's height, no wider, more placid wings, no watchfuller flight. He shoulders nature there, the frightfully free, the naked-headed one. Pardon him, you who dart in the orchard aisles, for it is he devours death, mocks mutability, has heart to make an end, keeps nature new. Thinking of Noah, child heart, try to forget how for so many bedlam hours his saw soured the song of birds with its wheezy gnaw, and the slam of his hammer all the day beset the people's ears. Forget how he could bear to see the towns like coral under the keel, and the fields so dismal deep. Rather try to feel how high and weary it was on the waters where he rocked his only world and everyone's. Forgive the hero, you, who would have died gladly with all you knew. He rode that tide to Ararat. All men are Noah's sons. Richard Wilbur often translated Anglo-Saxon Christian poems of an early age, and that poem partakes of that particular stream. Unmute.
I am unmuted.
Oh, well, I thought you weren't.
No, I must have spoken quietly.
Well, it's good to exercise the jaws, even if one doesn't make sounds.
Thank goodness, because I'm looking. Oh my goodness, something's broke. Everything's working here. Oh, that's the worst. That's when someone
what you
says
don't see that gets you.
When someone says there's a problem and it's not here. I don't know what it is.
You realize we've been off the air for 25 minutes? No, I think things are all right.
St. Joyce is actually monitoring all this, and Reverend Professor Gofflin is also monitoring everything. Actually,
yes,
I'm
we
monitoring
are
everything.
blessed by the help that we receive.
We're quite well monitored, so
yes,
we know when we go off the air. Let me see. I have a $9 question from simply a Ko-fi supporter.
All right.
And this is not so much a question. It's a question in that it is a request that ends in a question mark. Would you read...
Well, that makes it interrogative. Makes
right?
it a question.
There you have it. Would you read Sylvia Plath's Appetite for Fire and Flower?
Well, I'd have to get it up on the screen, but I think that is possible. If you can wait a moment for me to do that. I have to get out of this screen. If the computer will cooperate. Now the
Pressure, while Hal is bringing that up, can we drop a few little promotional items?
That's a good idea. My wireless mouse seems to have died, but I'll be able to do this. Don't worry. Sylvia Plath, what did you say? What was the poem?
That would be Epitaph for Fire and Flower.
Thank you. I'll get it.
And Amy, yes, you have the screen.
Wonderful. So everybody go out and Reverend Xenofact, our dear friend who is in charge of promotion for the show, has a new issue out of Vault of Slack, issue number 2. Please, Xenofact, if you are in the chat, feel free to drop the link. You may follow it there. And yes, please pick up your copy. I believe supplies are dwindling. So be sure to do that soon.
But it is very much a going concern, and there will be future issues. But if you're a real collector, you'll want to collect them all, collect them, trade them.
You'll want that beautiful hard copy of this wonderful work.
And now I will read the poem by Sylvia Plath. I hadn't memorized it, which is why I have to read it. And here it is, Epitaph for Fire and Flower. You might as well haul up this wave's green peak on wire to prevent fall, or anchor the fluent air in quartz as crack your skull to keep these two most perishable lovers from the touch that will kindle angels' envy, scorch and drop their fond hearts, charred as any match. Seek no stony camera eye to fix the passing dazzle of each face in black and white, or put on ice mouth's instant flare for future looks. Stars shoot their petals, and suns run to seed. However, you may sweat to hold such darling wrecks hived like honey in your head. Now in the crux of their vows hang your ear, still as a shell. Hear what an age of glass these lovers prophesy to lock embrace, secure in museum diamond for the stare of astounded generations. They wrestle to conquer Cinder's kingdom in the stroke of an hour and hoard faith safe in a fossil. But though they'd rivet sinews in rock and have every weathercock kiss hang fire, as if to outflame a phoenix, the moment's spur drives nimble blood too quick for a wish to tether. They ride night-long in their heartbeats' blazing wake until red cock plucks bare that comet's flowering. Dawn snuffs out stars' spent wick, even as love's dear fools cry evergreen, and a languor of wax congeals the vein, no matter how fiercely lit. Staunch contracts break and recoil in the altering light. The radiant limb blows ash in each lover's eye. The ardent look blackens flesh to bone and devours them. I should thank you for asking me to read that, which I haven't read for many years, but what a fine poem it is.
Beautiful, Hal. I have a $21 question from the Great Bloviator. We have not heard from the Great Bloviator for a while, I don't believe.
No, he may have been on a specific mission from which he is now returned.
But an old friend of the show, Rob Low Information. Good evening, Dr. Hal. It's been said that there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Dr. Hal, what are these things? Yours in mystification, Rob Low Information.
Well, they're the things that are unknown, of course, a great class of things, far greater than the class of things which are unknown. What they are is infinite and stretch in all directions and through all times, and can never be exhausted. So, to hearken back to what we were saying a little while ago, boredom is really inexcusable. There are so many ways one can go to amuse yourself and enlighten yourself. And as Bob Dylan said, he that is not busy being born is being dying. When one is developing, the process of anambolism takes place. About age 26, the counter process of catabolism, or age, begins, although there may be a long plateau where you coast without many signs of approaching age. Nonetheless, if you are not in a stage of development, anabolism, you are in a stage of shutting down, or catabolism. So I recommend that you go past this barrier and investigate any of the things that are unknown, even on the marches or borders between what is known and unknown. There are amazing, entertaining, and reviving things that can be found.
And that was a $25 question, Hal.
Yes, I didn't say what any of them were, but I could just choose so many things. So one is kind of dumbfounded by the multiplicity of it all. This is by Dylan Thomas. And death shall have no dominion. Dead men, naked, They shall be one with the man in the wind and the west moon. When their bones are picked clean and the clean bones gone, they shall have stars at elbow and foot. Though they go mad, they shall be sane. Though they sink through the sea, they shall rise again. Though lovers be lost, love shall not, and death shall have no dominion. And death shall have no dominion. Under the windings of the sea, they lying long shall not die windily, twisting on racks till sinews give way, strapped to a wheel, yet they shall not break. Faith in their hands shall snap in two, and the unicorn evils run them through. Split all ends up, they shan't crack, and death shall have no dominion, and death shall have no dominion. No more shall gulls cry in their ears, or waves break loud on the seashore. Where blew a flower, may a flower no more lift its head to the blows of the rain. Though they go mad and dead as nails, heads of the character hammer through daisies, break in the sun till the sun breaks down, and death shall have no dominion.
I have a question here from one of our very good friends, Professor Trixie von Mothersbaugh. It's a $10 question. Great. Yeah, Trixie's in the audience tonight. Wonderful to see. Wonderful to see you there, Professor Trixie.
Great to see her at Real X Day a few years back.
And again, this is a $10 question. And if you met your mirror universe self, what would they be like? And what do you think would happen?
Well, if a mirror universe was composed of antimatter, as some suppose, what would happen would be an enormous explosion, which would hardly benefit me or my doppelganger. But when one confronts one's self, one is not protected by the positive self-image, which tends to hang around our inner selves and give us reassurance about how we appear to others and what we look like. Once we have the privilege, if it is that, of standing outside ourselves and seeing ourselves, this edifice of suppositions comes crashing down in a most unpleasant way. However, the entire thing can be salutary. It can help you amend your many flaws, unsuspected or not paid attention to. When photography first occurred, and later when motion pictures occurred, people were confronted with this for the first time. The opportunity to see themselves made actors demand that their good side rather than their bad side always be shown, and so on. But to the world at large, our good side is not always shown, nor can it always eclipse the bad side as the sun can with the moon. By William Blake. Love seeketh not itself to please, nor for itself has any care, but for another gives its ease, and builds a heaven in hell's despair. So sang a little clod of clay trodden by the kettle's feet, but a pebble of the spring warbled out these meters meet. Love seeketh only self to please, to bind another to its delight, joys in another's lack of ease, and builds a hell in heaven's despite.
Well, this is a good time for us to go to our second animation feature of the evening.
Oh, yes.
And this one's kind of special because this was sort of a group project. All three of us here tonight worked on this in some way, shape, or form or another. And
That's
so we
correct.
all kind of,
Inspired by the great Ray Harryhausen, whose work this is. But this is our version, the Ask Dr. Hal show version.
and we all have our hands in this. So, without further ado, but audience, before we do this, it's a good time for me to remind you, we can take your questions. If you've got a love offering and you've got a question, that's a great combination, and the good doctor can certainly use a little love offering. So if you've got something, now's the time, because we're coming up on the last part of our show. So we're getting to that now or never point. But let's go ahead and go to that animation, and Hansel and Gretel, here it comes. That's the one I meant to hit. Got through the whole night.
Hey, one glitch isn't bad. That's all right.
Well,
How is it a glitch, especially if you can say something about film?
Certainly, I'd be happy to. This is another one of Ray Harryhausen's fabulous stories that he did. He did a series of Mother Goose tales that is also related to this. This is a slightly longer form one that he did a little bit later. But if you notice from the credits, actually, there's a couple of people credited that you may not recognize their names, but they are, in fact, Ray Harryhausen's mother and father who helped with the production of these shorts. His mother was a costumer and his father was a carpenter, and they contributed to this wonderful production that you see today. So, yeah.
His father made the armatures for his animation figures right up to and through Jason and the Argonauts, I believe, including
Yes, that's correct.
the skeletons there. So the Harryhausen family encouraged rather than discouraged Ray's unique aspirations.
Indeed.
It's interesting to note that when Gretel knocks the milk jug off the table and the milk jug falls through the air, the milk coming out and splattering on the ground, all of that is, of course, done in real time, not the time of the show. And the milk, even as a liquid, is actually carved out of wood.
We are not
fabulous.
worthy.
Just a beautiful piece of sculpture. Yeah. And
Well,
I
they're more
love those
vulgar.
those crossfades with the faces as well. That's sort of one of my favorite features of these shorts. I really enjoy those.
It's difficult to alter the faces because that would take a lot of micro manipulation. Although at certain points in his training career, Harryhausen built faces that did contain hidden rods and devices that could change the facial expression. But these were never actually used in the later features.
Well, and I should say too, audience, you will probably see more of these as we proceed. So it's kind of something that we're looking at doing more of. So, It was fun.
Yeah.
I like doing
I
Foley.
like the Foley that you did there.
Yeah, wonderful Foley work.
I missed my calling. I should have done Foley for my entire life.
Well, at least you managed in this instance.
I could have been a contender. Anyway, we have more questions, and let me spin those wheels real quick because I haven't done that for the last couple of minutes. Let me see what we've got. We've got a few questions coming into this last segment. So, Professor Gofflin, I will bring you back here shortly, but let's go ahead and get to those questions, and let's see what our audience has in store for us. See you in a bit, Professor. All right. I have a $25 question from Johnny is Wrong. Would you please give a fictionalized account of the day you met Elvis, or describe the last hamburger you ate?
Well, Johnny is wrong. I don't usually eat hamburgers. I don't go out of my way to to find them, but of course they can be delicious like anything else when prepared according to your own tastes. And in fact, if you're one of the people who likes onions, they're almost a healthy snack because the onions, with their long molecule, draw the fat out of the body, which the hamburger would actually leave there. But there were many people who met Elvis during his career. Perhaps you're familiar with a movie many people would like to forget, especially the person who was just fatally bitten by a Gila monster. That movie is The Giant Gila Monster. And according to epistolary material, which has recently come to light, the star of that movie did have a limited gig as a rock musician, and on one of these occasions, he and Elvis met each other and stood around in the parking lot commiserating about the business, something which at least he never forget, though probably Elvis quickly did. How would I have met Mr. Presley? His performances occurred and were widely known at a time when I was a child. I remember my grandfather saying, I don't see what's so bad about him, because lots of people, particularly the Republican people, thought he represented the end of civilization, and others, even less discerning, thought that he was some sort of a racial menace in adapting the music of an oppressed underclass. But it is possible that in later years I could have encountered him in Las Vegas, where he performed. But it wouldn't have been a long or lingering encounter, since Elvis spoke to as few people as possible while at what he referred to as this fucking Vegas. From his habitation, he could see a magnificent view of the Nevada desert, or at least he could have if the blinds had been opened, but he demanded that they be left closed. Well, let's say in this imaginary event that he dropped something, not just a spangle from his uniform, his nudie designed suit, now so often emulated and parodied. If I had picked it up and offered it to him, he would have ignored me completely. But if something valuable had been dropped by the king, it would have been my pleasure as a goody-goody kid to hand it back to him. And so let us say that I did. And let us say that Mr. Presley accepted it, if not with effusive gratitude, a grunt of appreciation. This poem is by Sir Walter Scott. Oh, young Lochinvar has come out of the west. Through all the wide border his steed was the best, and save his good broadsword he weapon had none. He rode all unarmed, and he rode on alone. So daring in love, and so dauntless in war, there never was knight like the young Lochinvar. He stayed not for brake, and he stopped not for stone. He swam the Esk River where ford there was none. But ere he alighted at Netherby gate, the bride had consented. The bridegroom came late, for a laggard in love and a dastard in war was to wed the fair Ellen of young Lochinvar. So boldly he entered the Netherby hall, among bridesmen and kinsmen and brothers and all. Then spake the bride's father, one hand on his sword, for the poor craven bridegroom said never a word. Oh, come ye in peace here, or come ye in war, or to dance at our bridal, young Laird Lochinvar? I long wooed your daughter, my suit you denied. Love swells like the Solway, but ebbs like its tide. And now I am come to this lost love of mine, to tread but one measure, drink one cup of wine. There are maidens in Scotland more lovely by far that would gladly be bride to the young Lochinvar. The bride kissed the goblet. The knight took it up. He quaffed off the wine, and he threw down the cup. She looked down to blush, and she looked up to sigh, with a smile on her lips and a tear in her eye. He took her soft hand, ere her mother could bar. Now lead we a measure, said young Lochinvar. So stately his form, and so lovely her face, that never a hall such a galliard did grace, while her mother did fret, and her father did fume, and the bridegroom stood, dangling his bonnet and plume. And the bridemaidens whispered, "'Twere better by far to have matched our fair cousin with young Lochinvar." One touch to her hand, and one word in her ear, when he reached the hall door where the charger stood near. So light to the croup the fair lady he swung, so right to the saddle behind her he sprung. She is won, we are gone, over bank, bush, and scaur. They'll have fleet steeds that follow, quoth young Lochinvar. There was mounting by Graemes of the Netherby clan, Fosters, Fenwicks, and Musgraves, they rode and they ran. There was racing and chasing on Cannobie Lee, but the lost bride of Netherby ne'er did they see. So faithful in love, and so dauntless in war, did ye e'er hear of gallant like young Lochinvar?
Reverend Dr. Shirley is in the audience.
Great,
Dr.
a friend
Hal.
of the show.
He was asking how to make a donation, and I will just spout that out. You can go to our Ko-fi channel, or you can just make a pledge if you want to do that in the chat and ask your question there, and we'll pick it up and we'll make sure that it gets to the good doctor. We will be your intercessor.
Yes, the early part of the show has the instructions on how to do it, but it is, I'm told, since I've never had to do it myself, simplicity itself.
Yes, we set it up that way. We have a new way that's coming, though, that's going to be completely in-house and hopefully a little easier, but we'll be talking more about that when it happens.
Always improving. That is a good thing.
That's what we do. We figured out how to do a lot of this stuff from kind of like ground zero. So we're coming along. It's it's a work in progress. So, but yes, we have some people helping us out now on the website and doing advertising for us and that sort of thing. So it's working out. So, but I have more questions for you. And this one's a $5 question, and it's from Weird Christmas.
Right.
It's an interesting question, too, so I'll be happy to read this back to you if you need the details again.
Very well.
Could you recommend 5 books for me that I likely don't know? Then compliment a user in the chat or your darling co-hosts using at least one word from each book's title.
Well, that's a tricky one. I'm supposed to use my memory to remember the 5 books, which I really don't know what your preference is, but I have been reading the books of the late Philip Kerr, in particular his Bernie Gunther novels. These are detective stories. Bernie Gunther is or was a policeman in Weimar, Berlin, and he is present solving crimes in his way as a great detective, while unfortunately the country devolves into the Nazi state. And then in all the books, this is the struggle. How do you catch and prosecute criminals when the government itself is criminal? I can't recommend these wonderful things too highly. There are a number of them. I'm reading the next to last one, actually. The first one goes back to before any of World War II happened, although he personally knows many of the bad actors on the German side during World War II, and then is unfairly branded as a Nazi in other books, which is part of the considerable struggle he makes throughout the series. The first, let me see, 5 books. The first one is called the Berlin Noir Trilogy. It comprises The Pale Criminal, March Violets, and what's the other one? Well, there's a third one. And there's the one from the other. Now I have 3. Let's see, some of them may be near me and will help me with this. One of them is called The Other Side of Silence. That's a most interesting one. How do we do? We have 4. Here's one, The Lady from Zagreb. Man, is that harrowing. And they often are harrowing because Bernie gets into some hideous, horrendous position where it looks like there's no way out, but always manages to escape, but others are not so lucky. Now, what am I supposed to do with the words from the titles of these books, Pressure? I know I'm supposed to do something. Concoct a sentence? Was that it?
Yes, it is then compliment a user in chat or your darling co-hosts using at least one word from each book title. Haha, that's a challenge.
Oh, I am pale at one of these requests, but silence is not permitted to me. And so, like Violets, I rely on my co-hosts to support me in this unusual enterprise and to revive me as I answer, telling the one thing from the other. In this metropolis. And the one I'm reading now is called Greeks Bearing Gifts, where in post-war Greece, he is an insurance investigator getting involved in some very sticky and unpleasant political business with sinister overtones. Always happens to Bernie. You know, like in the novels of Dashiell Hammett or the Philip Marlowe stories, Bernie is hilarious because he makes wonderful wisecracks, which are laugh out loud funny while all this is going on. And the books are so intensely researched and written so effortlessly and so readable that if you read them, you'll feel you went through all this historical stuff yourself, including the worst excesses of the Third Reich and those who opposed Germany in those years and afterward. But thank you for setting an unusual question. How much did you say that one was?
That was a $5 question, Hal.
$5. Well, that's good. $5 is American currency, good anywhere so far. Thank you.
Spends so well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I have more questions here for you. I actually have a question here from Dr. John Shirley. It is a $10 question. And it is, what is simplicity itself, in itself?
Well, I consider simplicity itself, which is a figurative expression, to be parsimony. That is the easiest and most direct way of going at something. And usually, especially in scientific investigation, this turns out to be the correct way, and that more elaborate ones are less likely to be correct or as correct. The human mind is great at elaborating its understanding of the world and in creating the way in which we as individual beings must act to confront the world. And yet we must use that mind to think of the most trouble-free way to go about it, or else those troubles are likely to lag after us and come at us in confrontation when we are least able to appreciate them or indeed to endure them. A poem by William Blake, The Poison Tree. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath. My wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not. My wrath did grow. And I watered it with fears, night and morning with my tears. And I used all of my wiles and soft, deceitful smiles, and it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple bright, and for my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine, and into my garden stole, when the night had veiled the pole. In the morning, glad, I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree.
Beautiful, Hal. I have a $6 question from Reverend Dr. Les.
All right.
And much is said about the luck of the Irish. Is there a group of people known for their incredible unluckiness?
To be known for that would itself be an example of not being lucky. And one wonders if anyone who supposedly has the rep for good luck is actually that lucky, or is making this assertion to disguise the troubles which otherwise lie in wait. But at the edge of my mind, there is something about some unlucky group of people. I think they were occultists living in the 4th century. They were contrarians. That explains it. Yes, the idea is that they decided not to trust all of those who they met, although they sequestered themselves in a great forest. And whenever presented with a piece of advice or any piece of lore, they did the opposite. They did not last 2 generations, and we only know of them because of monastic writings of the period. And this nameless group was certainly unlucky enough. But luck of good or bad kind can fall on any of us equally, and the worst thing and the worst piece of bad luck would be to be blamed for it, since this is simply the way the universe tends to work.
I have a $3 question from Anon.
All right.
Reverend Anon.
Known as Nemo. Yes.
Why is C.S. Lewis more well known today in the USA than G.K. Chesterton?
Well, maybe Chesterton is harder to appreciate, but it's more likely that Lewis is such an excellent writer that reading him is effortless, and thus people who don't like to work too hard at reading find that reading a book in this instance is not such a chore as they suppose. That being said, Lewis is often not appreciated even among those who one would think would wish to embrace his writings, since he was a Christian mystic as well as a medievalist and very familiar with all religious doctrines. But there are those who feel that if their particular edifice of belief is not respected, everything else must be demonic and evil. The Jack T. Chick approach, for example. And so there are those who find Lewis's careful constructions, which are all through his work and in accordance with ideas he picked up as one who studied the Middle Ages and certain later periods, as in his Oxford History of Literature in the 16th century. Pretty interesting and readable scholarly book about things that are not that interesting and readable. People are less likely to appreciate those. Chesterton, who wrote The Everlasting Man and other interesting things, particularly the Father Brown series, a minister or priest who solves crime, is certainly well worth picking up and reading. Once you get a taste for this sort of thing, there are all sorts of writers, including those of that unusual subset of literature, theological science fiction. Some of these are quite enjoyable, though others are abstruse and require some learning to prepare for. Coming to mind there is Charles Williams, particularly his novel Many Dimensions, which may be the most accessible of that group.
Well, Hal, I'm going to spin those wheels again, but that may have been the last question in the queue.
Well, a beginning presupposes an end, and so perhaps we are at the end, but only at the end of this part of the show. Remember, there will be a chat room afterwards where we can chew the metaphorical fat, and I hope you will join us there. Easy to get there, too.
Let me go ahead and get that out there for everybody. I should have had that up already, so my apologies. Let me see. I'll have that here in just a second. And gonna grab it now.
Isn't it www.askdrhalshow.com?
No, this is a Zoom channel.
Oh, pardon me.
But yes, you can go out to our website and you can get the link there, but I'm going to put it in the chat. Here, let me see. Here it comes. Control V. There we go. Yay.
Deposited in the chat letter in the chat box.
And let me go ahead and deposit it over in this chat too. So y'all have it as well. Y'all. We say in Delaware.
Yeah, yes, y'all, sloop, ketch, schooner.
Delaware actually has a weird southern accent. It's very strange here, but yeah, we do use y'all here in Delaware.
And Pittsburgh has a weird way of speaking. There are still many regional differences in speech that haven't been quite blended out by the age of ultra communication.
Every once in a while, you'll hear me twang. It's weird. Usually, I have my New Jersey accent, but I've lived here so long, I occasionally twang.
Mm-hmm. It's good to have all linguistic tools ready for the occasion which may come up where you have to use them.
One never knows. Well, let me go ahead and spin those wheels, but I have a feeling I'm going to be bringing all three of us back into the room again. Let me see. Let me go down the list here. Yep.
So you're like Santa Claus looking at the list of naughty and nice people.
Nice.
Oh, they're all nice,
They're
of course,
all
with
nice.
us. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we are favored.
They're all our favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But let me go ahead and bring Amy in, or Professor Gofflin.
They are all our favorites because Oh, that's all right. No problem.
Sorry.
I don't think my conspiracy name is a secret.
We're all this is an ensemble cast, so we're all pretty friendly with each other. So
It means friend, after all.
This is true.
and our meetings are a hoot. We get
Yeah.
laughing over some really crazy stuff. So if you ever get a
Putting
chance
these shows together are fun. Is fun.
it is, yeah.
Always found it to be.
Yeah, I look forward to a lot of the meetings that we have every week to put the show together. So it's
Well, I now have to travel to Texas to spend a week in the Stang's Castle in the middle of their vast ranch. But while there, we might make some sort of a recording, which will be useful for future shows if Ivan and Princess Wee Ardo are willing.
that
So
would
let's see
be
about
fun.
that.
That'd be fun.
And we have new videos from Robin Coomer, who's making a new album, and all sorts of new things for future shows. So, as they used to say in the Archaeozoic era, stay tuned.
We have more
I
cartoons.
think I may have just, I think I may have actually found a really cool new one. So we'll see.
Great.
Let's see what we can do.
I'm excited. We like to show cool cartoons. It's cartoons. They're not the same today that they were back in the day. They were edgier.
Well, it's easier to make them, and you can make them faster. But when you create things slowly, you have a chance to think about it and put more in.
Yeah, well, we got a whole bunch of. We're not going to run out of material anytime soon. Even with sticking with fair use and public domain and all that stuff, we have a lot of things that we can show people, and there's things that we can bring back that are worth seeing a second time in case you missed them. The snake dance is one I really want to show the audience again.
Oh, yes, from the old Abbott and Costello show. Boy, where did that come from? That's an amazing bit of footage. Well, stay tuned, as we say.
Yes, indeed. But we have the last part of the show coming up. The chat information has been put into the chat areas, so please join us at our Zoom chat that will be coming up right after this show. As soon as we jump off this channel, we'll jump into another one, and we'll see you there. And what else? Am I missing anything? Am I forgetting something?
Do we have a next show date?
We do.
That would be of interest to me.
We do, and I have it. It's actually going to be in the closing credits, but I forget exactly now what it is. Let me look that up.
Let's pay attention to the creds, and the answer will lie there.
April 21st.
And I'll be sure to mark it in my calendar. April 21st.
April
Wonderful.
21st is
April
our next
21st.
show.
Fine. Yeah.
Third Sunday of every month. If you forget, that's the easiest way
That's
to
right.
remember.
That's the easy way to remember it. Always on a Sunday and always at this time.
9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central.
And Mountain Time, God only knows.
Yeah. Or no, it's
Well, if
7
you
o'clock.
live in an area, you probably know what. I mean, just look at your phone. It'll tell you.
7 o'clock Mountain. Yeah.
There we go.
There it is. Oh man,
Isn't it Mountain Time on Pacific Time now? I just spoke with my family in Arizona. I feel like I should know this.
Well, now we're on the same time as Arizona because Arizona never changes, and so we're in
steadfastly refuse.
alignment with it until daylight savings time occurs again. Then we will be an hour off.
And being bi-coastal, doing the show bi-coastally, boy, does my brain have to wrap around times. Ask St. Andrew, who is constantly sending me emails saying, screwed the time up again.
Well, I get calls from people who call when I'm asleep because to them it's the bright and cheerful morning, but to me it's dark and the time for sleeping. Anyway, that's just the way it is.
Oh, well, it's part of life's rich pageantry, but we figure it out eventually. But that's pretty much what we have. We look forward to seeing you all in our chat room, and we look forward to seeing you all certainly next month when we do this all over again and new stuff.
On April 21st. Please
Yes.
make a note of it.
And with that, folks, we'll see y'all next month or in the chat room, of course.
Right.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you again.
Take care, everyone.
On to the chat room.
And here comes the big close. Please be sure to join us for our next all-new Ask Dr. Hal Show Home Edition, Sunday, April 21st, 2024, only on Twitch. Visit our website at AskDrHalShow.com for more information on this or where to find previous episodes.
The winter evening settles down with smell of steaks in passageways, the burnt-out ends of smoky days, and now a gusty shower wraps the drying scraps of withered leaves about your feet, and newspapers from vacant lots. The showers beat on broken blinds and chimney pots, while, at the corner of the street, a lonely cab horse steams and stamps, and then the lighting of the lamps. The morning comes to consciousness with the first faint, stale smell of beer from all the sawdust-sprinkled streets, with busy feet that press to early coffee stands. With the other masquerades that time resumes, one thinks of all the hands that are raising dingy shades in 1,000 furnished rooms. You tossed the blankets from the bed. You lay upon your back and waited. You rose and watched the night revealing the 1,000 sordid images of which your soul was constituted. They flickered against the ceiling. And when all the world came back and the day crept in through the shutters, and you heard the sparrows in the gutters, you had such a vision of the street as the street hardly understands, sitting along the bed's edge where you curled the papers in your hair or clasped the yellowed soles of feet in the palms of both soiled hands. His soul stretched tight across the skies that stand behind the city block, and answered to insistent feet at 4 and 5 and 6 o'clock, and short, square fingers stuffing pipes and evening newspapers, and eyes assured of certain certainties. The conscience of a blackened street, impatient to assume the world. I am moved by fancies that are curled about these images and cling, the notion of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. Wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. The worlds revolve like ancient women gathering fuel in vacant lots. T.S. Eliot.